I've got the pleasure of being here with Stringfellow today.
Thank you. Hello. Nice to be here. Pleasure is mine. Thank you for having me.
This new album comes after a difficult personal time. What role did music play in your process of rebuilding?
Oh, well, it's one of the, music has always been a way that, I get to get out deep feelings that I might not be able to express otherwise. But actually at this time, you're right, it was a really difficult time for me, and there was so much coming out of me that actually I couldn't stop it. Usually as a artist, we're trying to coax that deep stuff out and hope that, we get the right frequency and pull in the right, the something beautiful. But for this whole period, stuff was just coming out of me in my dreams, when I was awake, at all times. So it's more like a document of me learning how to recover, and learning who I was actually in many ways. So maybe the music is just there as a witness, but since I learned some things about resilience and how to work with difficult situations and face your own demons, all this kind of stuff, face other people's demons. I think that this album, in documenting that, will hopefully be a companion for somebody else going through those kind of episodes. That would be nice.
And what does Circuit Breaker mean to you as a title?
Well, in one sense, a circuit breaker in your house is just this thing that explodes when everything is too much. It's like the thing that overloads, and it's the thing that saves you when it's overloading. So that's kind of the first meaning in a sense, but at the same time, I think that most of us are usually locked into kind of patterns, and lessons that we have to learn, and you're kind of stuck in a loop. A circuit is a loop until you learn the lesson. And so the way that you graduate sometimes from kind of comfort zone is that something knocks you out of your comfort zone, and you have to grow in order to make any progress at all. And so it's not a negative thing, circuit breaker. I think it's not me saying I'm a victim or something like this. It's saying like, wow, I was awakened and I'm grateful. So now it's really about, how can you always find your way out of the loops that you're stuck in and keep growing as a person.
And you work with artists like Lydia Lance and Susie Quattro on this album. How did those collaborations came about, and what did they bring to the record?
Well, I have to be very diplomatic here and say that there's some, my album is generally about really kind of optimistic or healing themes, about resilience, as I've already said. But this wouldn't make any sense if there wasn't also like a place that you're coming from, and so we have to look at the dark, broken, maybe even kind of scary or dangerous sides of human psychology. And Lydia volunteered to sort of play this role. She takes us into a very dark place. She's playing a kind of a character, the persona of, let's say, someone, difficult that I may have encountered in my life or something like this. And I also bring into that same piece my own dark side, in a sense. You have to face it and understand it. And Lydia's been working with those kind of things forever. She's put all of herself out there for everyone to see, all of her experiences, all of her, through all of her life, whatever it is, sex, drugs, whatever, she's not afraid to just show you where she's been. She doesn't judge herself. She doesn't judge other people. And I think that kind of energy is, at that time that I was making that record, is kind of beyond me, So I needed someone who was more fearless to go into that place and personify it. And the one word I would use to describe Lydia is fearless. And Susie, I'm just a huge fan of her work. I reached out to her. I don't know her. I've known Lydia for years and years and years, but Susie Quattro, I know her except I have her records, and she just stepped right up and said, I would love to play. And that's the thing is, Susie is kind of like a pop star in a sense because she's had like hit records and stuff like that. Stumbling In, is a big one that we know in the States. But I really wanted her bass playing, because I think she's a great bass player, and I think was the hook. She was really happy to be asked, musician to musician, for her skills, which are great.
Was there a particular song that was especially hard to write or record?
Not really. I mean, I think that's the whole thing. I mean, once a song wants to come, I mean, that's the miracle, they're all hard in one sense in that, like, before they exist, you have no idea what they're going to be. You don't know what's in your future. But what's strange is that when you do write a song, it was already part of you. It was always going to be there. And so it's more like just finding those things in yourself and just not being afraid to reach in and get them, or in some cases they just wrote themselves because I had these dreams and the songs were in there. The life that I went through, the changes I went through were hard because change is hard. It's hard to face the unknown. We all have comfortable places that we are in our life. We play characters that we like, in a sense, but to go beyond that, or find yourself in a place where maybe your old ways of being don't work, or you don't have you lose something, your friends, your job, whatever, or your relationship. These things can leave you, and then that thing that you were counting on to be part of your life is gone, so you have to redefine yourself. And it's really hard as human beings to do that. So that's the hard part. The songs themselves are more like journal entries, like this is where I've been, so you need to write this stuff, I think as an artist, you have to put that out there. But this is long before I had any kind of self-awareness. I wrote songs because I had damage, and that damage expresses itself that way. It comes out of you because you can't carry around everything because you'll just poison yourself, So you put it out there, and that's the song. It's a relief in many ways.
You've had a very wide-ranging career, the Posies, Big Star, R.E.M. What drives you to keep reinventing yourself as a solo artist?
Well, I think curiosity is like one of my main qualities. If I were to have any good quality, if I were to say, Ken, what's something positive about yourself? I would say I'm endlessly curious, and I always want to connect, I love connecting to people, and people bring different ideas into your life. I do a lot of work as a producer, and sometimes I work on projects that I never would have chosen to make music like this, but I'm so glad that this person sort of pushed me into their world and let me try something different. My curiosity is pretty insatiable, and my interest in seeing the whole world as it is sort of always there, and I'm always trying to see another corner of the world that I'm not familiar with. And this has been the case. I came from kind of a really boring background, you know what I mean? Like, my family had money and things like this, but it was not like always such a happy place. And especially living in what we call the suburbs in the States, like these kind of very safe, very non-controversial, very kind of boring, I hate to say it, but places that I grew up in. I mean, I appreciate them for what they are, but I was always like, there's gotta be more to life than this. I want to know about other cultures, other languages, sit there and look over encyclopedias and maps and going, there's got to be something more interesting out there than this. And there's a lot of interesting things out there in the world, and I'm kind of committed to experiencing as many different kinds of things as I can. I know who I am. I don't I don't need to like. You could just spend the rest of your life exploring yourself and probably learn a lot of interesting things. But I'm too engaged in the world to not go out there and see it and explore it. So, there you go.
What did you learn from working with such diverse artists as Tom York or Neil Young?
Well, actually, with Neil Young, which I had the occasion to play with Neil a few times. I think what I had thought about playing music to that point was like everybody gets together, you rock out, you play your part, you play it really hard, But what I discovered about Neil is like he's the world's best listener, and on stage, like every little detail seemed to be making an impression on him, and he would respond in his playing, and it was real obvious when I was on stage with him that was the case. It's not so obvious when you're watching like a video or something like that and you see him like you think he's just in his own mind, but actually he's totally aware of every little thing going on the stage and he responds to it. He's in the moment in a really pure way.
You've also produced many musicians. How did you approach your role as a producer versus that of a performer?
Well, I'm there to help, performing is like, that's a whole different thing, where I'm basically there to, there's a similarity. I'm there to encourage people. That's an interesting parallel. When I'm performing for an audience, it's about encouraging them to feel their deepest feelings without them really feeling self-conscious about it. I put this heavy emotion on the table and people respond like they're kind of their heaviest emotions. It's like a snail that's been scared into its shell. They kind of creep out a little bit, and pretty soon they're feeling this deep stuff, and they think I'm doing it, but actually they're doing it. And you could say that that's the similarity in producing, that I'm just trying to, in a more overt way, shall we say, because I'm explaining to the artist, like I'm trying to get something deep out of you and take you a little bit further. And I would like to take people out of their comfort zone and get more into free creative space. It's not always possible because, an artist comes to me and they just need help executing their vision, and sometimes they don't want to grow. They just want to get this thing documented. And I get that, but I try and push them at least a little bit,
What do you value more today, the intimate connection with the audience or the perfection of sound in the studio?
Well, I think performing is something I really couldn't live without in a way. Not that I could live without making music in the studio, but I think that space that we get to in this kind of show that I do is very special, and I think it's kind of unique in a sense. I think a lot of what goes around there in the music world is more about a party or being in the cool place that's culturally hip at the moment, or it's more like a lot of people go to shows these days so they can put a picture of them at the show on their Instagram and show, look, I'm cool, I've got good taste. But what I create at my show is something that is nobody posts about it that much because nobody wants to be out of that moment. It's very rare that people pull out their phones and start filming my show because the moment is so real that they just want to be in it. And it's a hard thing to really describe. I'm not saying that, oh my God, it's so amazing, but it is kind of unique. And I think that creating those kind of spaces where we really are emotionally engaged and I'm aware of the audience and making sure they know I'm aware of them, I'm not just up there, whatever. I think that's, and my show is so simple and so close, you're just there with me as I basically put my whole life, into the microphone or no microphone. I think that little reminder that life can be that direct, that music doesn't need all this technology necessarily. Technology is cool, but I have to remind people that the source is like our souls, and this is, I think, worthy of reminding people because we get lost in the glamour of technology quite a bit.
After so many years touring around the world, how do you see the evolution of the audience of the music in industry?
Well, I don't know. I'm not really in the music industry, so I'm kind of doing something very independent. You know, the music industry has always been about, you know, selling kind of fashionable lifestyle accessory, right? Music is like an accessory for a lifestyle brand, and that lifestyle brand has changed. You know, it was like Levi's and T-shirt rebellion in the 50s, and then long hair rebellion in the 60s, but it's like once the machine gets its hand on it, it turns it into a kind of lifestyle product, and it weakens the meaning a little bit, in my personal opinion. So I kind of I'm more like, I don't know, I'm like a chiropractor or something like that, you know what I mean? Like, you come into my show and I kind of crack your neck emotionally in a really nice way, and you should come out a little more open or something like that. I mean, I'm not saying I'm not a doctor, but it's a different mission in a sense. You know, I'm kind of too old to be fashionable, and I just kind of, I don't know. However the music industry changes, certain things remain the same. It's just technology that changes. So since my show is not very technological, it's kind of on its own orbit, you know.
And you keep coming back to Spain, a country that seems to love you. What drives you to the Spanish audience?
Well, I will say this: joy, like joie de vivre, in a sense, you know, is really evident here. When I do a show, or when someone does a show, like, I think people bring. It's funny because it's not a very dark place on the surface, right? I mean, okay, we could unpack Spanish history, and there's lots of dark things in there, you know. But the people always strike me as very positive. At least the people who come to my shows are that way, and it's kind of the quickest connection to that. I don't know, there's just a certain, I don't know what it is about the culture, but there's a certain emotional availability here that, you know, there's no work in getting to a connection with the people here. Some cultures are more shy. I mean, nobody would, nobody would argue that, you know, for example, Finland, you know, people are more like a little more reserved emotionally. They would say this about themselves. Audiences there are great. But here it's like things get to the surface in a good way. I mean, they emerge. Emotional availability seems to emerge very fast from this audience, and they always come and they love what I do. It's a mystery too, so I just roll with it, you know. I love it here though.
How do you choose your the set list? Do you include older songs, or is it all follow on the new album?
Well, I've been touring the new album pretty hard, playing most of the songs on the album, but I have already done a show here in Murcia on this tour, so, you know, maybe, I mean, there is no set list, actually. I can just do whatever I want, so that's also very nice about a solo show. So it's totally freeform. Let's see.
Do you have any personal rituals before going on stage?
Not really. I mean, the main thing that I have, the one thing that is my ritual or whatever, is I drink all through the show a special kind of tea that's for throat relief, you know. And now it's like I'm so used to having this tea that I must have it. It's like become my good luck charm in a sense.
What has been your most memorable show in Spain?
Ooh, well, you know what? Actually, on the last tour, there was this show in Pontevedra. It was really special. I mean, I know, like, Spain is generally special for me, and I've played more shows in Spain than on this tour than anywhere else other than the U.S. And that show was even more, I don't even know. I mean, it it was this perfect spot. It was kind of romantic in the sense that it was like pouring down rain, like it can be there, you know. And we were in this little kind of shack, in a way, behind this restaurant. And there was so many people. I mean, it just. But usually, when there's so many people, it can be kind of like they get restless, they start talking, all this kind of stuff. But this was like totally packed, and everybody was so into it. And the vibe. It's like, you know, the more embers you have, the hotter the fire would be. And this was like very intense energy with lots of people crying and all this kind of stuff. It just and I just kept going and going. I mean, I played for like 3 hours and they never got tired. It was just it's really hard to describe once you're out of it, but it was so pure. And it's like I did everything right. Like I was so safe and guided in that energy that like every note was on, every chord was on. It's really strange because the energy of the people does affect how well I play. It's like really the people create the show. I am just like an idea, but the actual energy of the show is the audiences. They don't know it, but that's the case. And they brought a lot of beauty to that show. And I think just the fact that it just kept going and they wanted more and more and more and more, and it was like we didn't want to leave that bubble that we were in, and so that the 3 hours felt like 1 minute, you know. It was really nice.
How do you find balance between your personal life and such a constantly active musical career?
Communication, you know. No matter where because I also, you know, my wife, we're based in France, you know. I'm sort of based in the U.S. and France. I'm like how would you say? I've worked out a system so that I can visit France as much as I can, as long as I'm going back to the States, and I have a studio there, so I go back there and work. But that means I have to be away. And the communication is the key. So Dominique, my wife, and I would say when I'm away, we talk minimum 1 hour a day, maybe 2. I mean, it's kind of incredible, but we never run out of stuff to say. We're always talking. So this is the only way we can do it. I mean, Dominique is super patient, you know, because like I was just gone for 3 months. I came home for 3 nights, in which I mixed 2 songs for another artist, and then I came here for 2 weeks. I mean, it's a lot to ask. Luckily, Dominique is very independent, and she also knows that this is what needs to be done. I mean, there's kind of no halfway if you're gonna, in my opinion anyway, or at least at my level, you know, like every show counts, every euro counts, every album sale counts. So you have to commit to it in a very total way, and I wouldn't say it's always very well balanced. Actually, I would say that the music tends to invade, you know, because even when I come home, like people need their records mixed and stuff like that, so I have to fight really hard to take a couple weeks off for vacation and really just have family time. And of course, like August is the traditional French vacation, and I always arrange to be over there during August. And the thing is, Dominique works for a festival, and it's in August, so even there, the music invades, because she's part of the music too. I mean, she's worked at labels. She works for a label now, and she works for a festival, and she also works with me. I mean, she directed all the videos and has helped me there. So working together does help, because you know, really we share that, you know. But there's a lot of time apart, and I think just communication is the only way it can work.
What inspires you these days? Has your way of writing changed over the years?
Yeah. I mean, I think what inspires me now is just that the experiences I've been through in the last couple of years, like I've been exposed to some of the basic principles and theories of psychology. You know, I was in therapy, and it really helped me a lot. My therapist was an excellent guide to self-discovery, and also an excellent teacher, just about how people work. And when I wanted to understand a principle, he could explain it to me really well, or point me in a direction for materials that could teach me. So once I unpacked a little bit about psychology, I'm like, there's like no end. You know, human beings, we are total mysteries to ourselves, and we go out there like interacting as if we know what we're doing, and it produces this chaos that sometimes is really wonderful and sometimes is really tragic. There's 8 billion of us. Like, there will never ever be enough songs, because this is like an endless well of, we'll never fully understand the human race either. I mean, psychology is quite complete and quite complex, but people surprise you, you know, in ways both good and bad. You know, people who should be totally unable and unprepared to live a healthy life can sometimes pull themselves out of a tragic upbringing. And sometimes people who didn't seem to have a really tragic upbringing are really damaged. So you just never know. And that's interesting to me.
What advice would you give to someone going through a dark time, who wants to use art as a way of healing?
Well, I would say that art is a good companion for the journey. I would say that it's not therapy. This is a common misconception. I think therapy is therapy. It's like a really special preparation that someone goes through to be a therapist, including the fact that they go through therapy themselves. So they're not ideally bringing their own baggage into your world while you're trying to deal with your baggage. But the one thing I would say is, and that's helped me a lot, is that, you know, focus on the moment. Even when it's the worst possible moment, you're going through grief, you're going through something really tumultuous, you know, a public shaming, something like this. In that moment, ask yourself, am I in immediate danger? And most of the time, 99.999% of the time, the answer is no, I'm not in immediate danger. Everything that you're thinking is likely a projection about what might happen. But in that moment right now, in this moment right now, you're fine. And if you can grab onto that and expand upon that and take that moment with you and just remind yourself, I'm okay. In this moment, I'm okay. Whatever's going to happen is going to happen. In this moment, I'm okay. I think that helped me, you know, and hopefully that could help someone else. It's really about understanding that worrying about the future, worrying about the past, it doesn't really change the outcome. So stay in the moment, and that changes the outcome.
Is there still something you dream of doing musically?
Sure. I mean, God. I mean, I've played with a lot of really interesting people, so I don't know how many more ambitions I have that way, but I'm just here to, you know, I'm just going to keep creating and this kind of thing. Musically, I don't know. I mean, just see what happens, you know? It's an open canvas. I don't have anything that I feel like, oh, I didn't do this, I didn't do that. It's more like the field is open. So let's see what happens. I'd love to collaborate with different people. You know, I mean, when I do my solo albums, I really there's a few guests on my album, but other than that, you know, I engineer it, I perform it, I mix it. And that's all very well. I'm going to do another record like that. But, you know, I love working with people. It's a bit sad, you know, that my band doesn't exist. But I don't really think it's salvageable now that I understand the people better, and my own goals for the kind of energy I want to be around, at least in the short term, like the next 20 years, 30, 50 years. I don't think it's salvageable. Maybe we can be holograms later. But it would be nice. I miss a real collaboration, you know, that maybe even my band didn't always have, you know, like I could do that now because I've gotten whatever I want to get out in my solo albums, it's done. I can do that anytime. So I would like to play some music with somebody and do like a half-half thing. Maybe I hate it. I don't know.
What would you like people to take away after seeing you perform live tonight in Murcia?
Well, other than the albums that I have at the merch table, I'm kidding, of course, but I don't know. I think in a way, like, this thing works. You know what I mean? I don't even have to worry about it. This is the weirdest thing. And I'm not saying this to be like, oh, I'm like a guru or whatever. I just really trust that it works and that the people get what they need. I don't even know what people need. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not a psychologist or whatever. I'm just giving them a space where they can feel. And I think that's enough. I mean, music did that for me. You know, when I was like a lonely teenager, you know, whatever, and I heard a song and like, wow, that person like knows how I feel. Like, they've encapsulated something that I can't put into words. That helps me because it like helps me understand what I'm going through a little bit, or at least I feel like I'm not so alone. I think if I did that for someone, that's great. I don't need to know about it, you know what I mean? But I just think that in that space, in that show tonight or any other night, we're just gonna be real. That's it. It's that simple. In a world that's so much fake in this world, there's so many people pretending to be something other than they are. There's so many lies being told every second, every minute of every whatever, on every platform, governments, everyday people. Everyone is like kind of fake or trying to make you do something or trying to push their agenda on you or whatever. And in my place, I'm just feeling and you feel, and the feelings are yours. They're not mine. I'm helping you or giving you a space where you can do that without feeling self-conscious. And that's it. It's that simple. It's like something true.
Any message you would like to give to people who is watching us?
Well, thank you for listening through all of this. Hopefully you could hear what we were saying. We looked all over Murcia for a quiet spot, and there are none. So, but I think it's beautiful. I encourage everyone to get to know themselves, and I hope that we meet one day and say hello.